judge a talent show. I'm waiting for like dancers.
Yeah.
Dancers?
Yeah. Jugglers, singers.
All right, here we go. Dave and Mathias here with another exciting episode of the Blabbermalt Show.
The Blabbermalt Show.
Hey, Mathias.
Yes, sir.
Are you ready to talk about beer, brewing, and bullcrap?
I sure am.
What do you want to
Emphasis
start
on the bullcrap.
The bullcrap. That's where you want to start?
Absolutely. So last week we had a mini episode at Bascule Brewing Company, and we had a great time.
Absolutely. Great day.
Great
Beautiful
day. Beautiful outside. Had a barge of beer. All were fantastic. We got a tour of the facility.
We did.
Saw the brew house. Met some patrons. Took you back outside to the beautiful
Saw that beer garden out there?
beer garden.
Oh.
Took that in for a minute. Went back in, had a pint. Just had a good time.
Yeah.
Absolutely good time. So one of the things that we always want to start the show out with is how do you see us outside of this live broadcast, Dave? How do they find us here?
Can they find us?
They sure can.
Okay. Facebook and YouTube, we're The Blabbermalt Show. And you can check out stuff on Twitter and Instagram at The Blabbermalt.
Absolutely. If you have any questions for us or you want to send anything right now, you do that at Gmail at blabbermaltshow@gmail.com. Dave, one of the cool things that we've been talking about for the last couple weeks is this new brewery opening in Lorain County.
Yeah. Four Paws, right?
Four Paws.
Yeah.
And you went to Four Paws in Red Wagon on Friday. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, it was like their soft opening Friday. We went out there. It's a cool space, out in the Columbia Station. They have, it's actually two breweries. It's the Red Wagon Farms and Four Paws. And Four Paws is all about rescue dogs.
Yep.
So I like that. That's cool. But I'm going to make a prediction. They have their tap room. And they have a little like farm stand there.
Mm-hmm.
My prediction is this winter that farm stand stuff goes away, and they get some more tables, sell some more beer. Because you got to sell a lot of popcorn and maple syrup to make up for those beer sales.
But the pictures look great.
Oh yeah,
The space looked wonderful.
yeah.
How many beers did they have on tap?
They had like 8 or 10.
It's fantastic. How were they?
They were good, very good.
Heck yeah. So be on the lookout for that. I think we have some more info on both Four Paws and Red Wagon on their actual opening day here coming up soon. Yeah. Where else did you go?
Yeah, after that, we were so close to Strongsville, and Tough was playing, and Billy Morris was playing at the local bar in Strongsville, so we just, we're priced in, so we just bopped over there. Billy bought me a cream ale, a Jenny Cream.
He would do that. He would do that.
It was great.
Perfect.
The best beer is free beer.
Best beer is free beer. And I had to work, so I wanted to go to that show really bad. Didn't make it, but hopefully this summer I'll have more time to do those things.
Yeah. Speaking of free beer, should we hit the Vorloff?
Hit the Vorloff. It's time to mash it. It's time for the Vorloff.
Nice.
Heck yeah.
So we got Chris here from Bascule.
We got
How cool is
the
that?
man, the myth,
We get 2 shows
the
with him.
legend. 2 shows in a row. I love it.
I feel special. I feel really
Well, you
honored.
are.
Special for sure.
What'd you bring for us?
Well, I brought I brought one of our standard offerings that is on year-round, and then I brought 2 other special ones. One is a seasonal that is one of my absolute favorites, has a pretty diehard cult following. It is our Swamp Lily Black IPA. And then our other newer release that's going to be being showcased here on the 27th with United We Sweat from United Way is our Let's Get Physic Ale. And it's a recovery IPA brewed with electrolytes.
It's what plants crave.
It's what plants crave. And if I had known you were going to bring this, we would have had leg warmers
I know.
and danced around.
Right. I mean, I'm sure we can queue up some good, what's his name?
80s,
Richard Simmons.
Richard Simmons?
Yeah, we can queue up
All
some of
right,
that
we'll
music.
cue that in the edit floor.
Okay.
So let's crack into one of those. So you brought the steam-powered Dream Copper Ale, which is a standard we've had.
Yeah, it is, but I want to talk to people about it because it is somewhat, shall we say, it flies under the radar a lot. We came up with this one to be kind of our flagship beer. It was our answer to, Lorain County, very blue collar. You should have something more aligned with an American lager. Well, we thought, well, that's selling people short. Let's give people the drinkability of an American lager with a little more charisma, some charismatic qualities to it.
So you're talking a lot, and we should be drinking some here.
I agree. I'm parched. I had 2 on the way here.
You're good. All right. So this is you can see it. We're in our Brewfest Waterfront District glasses here.
Oh, yeah.
This beautiful copper-colored ale.
Yeah.
What do we have in terms of grain?
So this is caramel malt, Gold Swan.
Cheers.
Caramel dark 60, and then we have just a little hint of chocolate malt, and then the finishing hop on this is Centennial.
That is a great beer.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, I was kind of inspired by a lot of, I guess you could say, intro beers that gateway beers that kind of got me into things. So I concentrated heavily on things like Sierra Nevada, not Tumbler. It's their other. It's a wet hop one they do around Christmas. I can't think of it now. Celebration. Yeah. So I was concentrating heavily on that, as well as thinking of a Anchor Brewing.
Oh, yeah.
Their steam ale. Yeah. So this was kind of like my answer to that.
I think it's a
it's
good representation of the style.
Very much, yeah. I mean, a lot of people tend to come in and they just, well, give me your lightest beer. So I like to have fun with, especially the couples. You know, if the guy wants, well, just give me the lightest one. I'll be like, okay, that's good. And while you're enjoying your beer with training wheels, I'm going to give your girlfriend the steam powered, and and then they find that they really like it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Was that a double innuendo?
In my end.
Okay.
Oh.
Not at the brewery?
Oh.
That's good.
Yeah.
So we're going to try these as we move through. Obviously, you're canning.
Yeah. So, one of I try to see the positives about any difficult situation. COVID being one of those things where it kind of put everybody into kind of like a crucible and let us know what we're made of. One of the necessities that came from that time was canning. We were fortunate enough that a mutual friend of ours, Matthew Spear, was generous enough to contribute a cannular canning unit to the brewery, and that was pivotal, which allowed us to do things like our bascule drive-through that we did to kind of help keep the lights on, keep us alive during COVID. So, and it's really nice. I think people really enjoy having a pint that they can take with them. And it makes it easier to share. A lot better than a growler, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I do too. And I like your labels.
Thank you. That is a newer design. We just had them revamped. Nothing too flashy. There's so much amazing artwork that's happening on cans right now. We knew that we just had to put something kind of simple out there just to get us out in front of people. Very distinguishable. What you're looking at is our Son of a Batch label, and that just allows us to any one-off that we have. That allows us to put that into a can while you still have a label to show and still gets us some brand identification.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So talk about your logo on this really quickly so people can see it. They've seen it here as well.
The logo is something I'm very proud of. From the very first time that we conceptualized Bascule Brewery, Lorain is it's an old steel town, but I kind of had a vision of what Lorain could have been were it not for the steel mills and all that. And it's a lake town. It could almost be, if you really tried to reimagine it, it could be almost like a New England sort of town. A lot of ships coming in and out of port, and so I really wanted to establish that in the logo itself. The logo was meant to be cut out of a solid piece of steel. It's supposed to resemble a compass rose, but it's also supposed to resemble almost like a formal seal of like the Port Authority itself, and it's very distinguishable, and we're very proud of it.
And I love that around the top you have the flags that represent Lorain in general, which is the international city.
That's correct. Yes, it has some of that flair to it, as well as just the nautical roots.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of boating happening in Lorain.
Really love it.
Yeah, very cool.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, talking about some of the things we want to find out more about you for our listeners, let's talk about some questions. The first one that always comes to mind for us is how did you get into brewing?
Well, of course, I always kind of say this tongue in cheek to my patrons that ask me this is because I wasn't good at anything else. But the real answer,
I can see that. I'm just.
You've seen my dancing, and
but you can sing. I've heard you sing.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I can sing, sort of sing. But the real answer as to what got me into brewing was I'm the product of I'm a first generation American, so I'm the product of immigrants, and I'm used to seeing people working with their hands, working with raw materials, and I really couldn't envision myself picking a modern profession. Nothing really stuck out to me. If it wasn't brewing, it would have been something in like baking or cooking or something of that nature. And one day, as I was telling our producer earlier, I dabbled in broadcasting, and when that didn't work out for me, I came back to Youngstown and stumbled into a homebrew festival, and I had no idea that homebrewing was even a hobby. And all of a sudden, it just made my world go from black and white into color. And homebrewing is a very infectious hobby. It really takes over, and it was just one of those things where I had to keep striking while the iron was hot, and I wanted to make sure I followed through with this. I waited for it to go away, but it didn't. It was like that bad rash.
So was there
a
a beer that got you interested in, that brewing or home brewing obviously struck a nerve, but there had to be a beer or something that.
What's funny is that beer to this day, I don't know if it really exists. I was on a perpetual quest to find what beer would have tasted like. I wanted to know what beer tasted like before it became mass produced. So I was like really gravitating towards things like Yingling, and then later on down the road, I'd found out about Dogfish Head, and I wanted to try that Midas Touch. And I've always been fascinated by what would have been brewed hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. So, I went through the typical protocols of most people getting into craft beer. I found out about Hop Slam, found out about, Bell's Two Hearted, things like that. And a lot of breweries that don't even exist anymore. There was, I don't want to say few breweries around at the time, but there was definitely fewer. And that also attracted me to it.
What year are we
2009, 2010-ish is when I got into it. And
I think there's actually a YouTube video of you at a condo striking up a batch of beer.
Oh, my God. Yeah, so...
I've seen that.
Yeah, I was on the cutting edge, okay? And before you guys with your fancy schmancy Blabbermalt show...
Listen, we had a few pints and watched that video together, so... We may have held hands.
I was very, very inspired by some of the earlier, shows, traveling cooking shows, foodie network shows, and I was very inspired by that. And I thought I was going to do something like that, and I'm just not as good at all the production stuff. So,
but you did. You were brewing beer, and you walked people through the process.
Yeah. I mean, I actually really, really enjoy educating people about. I'm sure my knowledge now is probably elementary compared to the leaps and bounds that the brewing industry has made now. But at the time, I was very, very. It was a romantic topic for me to talk to people about all the different nuances of what makes beer so amazing, so special. And to this day, I still get excited about it.
That's wonderful. I want to backtrack a minute because I think that most people don't realize. Your heritage, right? So you can go by Chris.
I go by Chris.
For the most part. But let's talk about that because if you spend any time with you and you meet your wonderful mother, you find out that, as you mentioned, you are first generation American.
Correct.
Walk us through that because she does not call you Chris.
Well, no, my family calls me Christo, which is a shortened version of the name Chrysostomos. I was born and baptized Greek Orthodox, and it like any immigrant, like any ethnic family, that plays a big role in your identity. And you were asking me earlier about what got me into brewing. I used to watch my dad coming up the steps every day. He had a big kitchen in the basement, and he used to come up bringing up these big hearty loaves of wheat bread. I mean, you could have built a cobblestone house with these things, you know. So I mean, that smell alone, you know, I loved that visceral experience of things being made from raw materials. And you know, I also grew up in a predominantly Greek neighborhood with a lot of other ethnic neighbors. I had an Italian neighbor who was making his own wine, and it was such a beautiful thing. I didn't know I lived next to this guy for like 20 years, and then one day when I turned 21, I definitely was 21, and
That's for all you people out there.
Don't get any ideas.
21.
He invited me over, and he's like, hey, let me show you what I do in the garage, and he invited me over there, and
That is a conversation for another day.
He was being neighborly.
Okay.
And so, but yeah, I love the fact that like making your own beverage really became like this gathering spot, and so I wanted to follow in those footsteps.
And so you are Greek,
Yes.
and your mother is obviously bilingual.
Yes.
And are you?
Yeah, I speak Greek pretty fluently. Yeah, enough to fool people. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And you guys see typing Greek to each other on Facebook sometimes.
Every now and again, yeah. We you know, I took 8 years of Greek school. I've got the bruised knuckles to show it. And yeah, so you know, I'm very proud of my Greek heritage. Initially, in the early days of my brewing, I tried to incorporate some, you know, like I had a beer that tasted like a bread called sureki. So you might know it as a brioche bread that you do for Easter. So I literally used the same spices and added, you know, some different ingredients in there to kind of bring out like that nice sweet brioche character.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm also going to make a baklava.
Get it? Ba-dum-ching. I love it. So we had that conversation about home brewing and how that started in the background, and I think that it's important to see your love for the product and your location and your business and beer and your patrons, because you're passing that same knowledge that you got from your dad, right? The love for that to your own son.
Yeah, yeah. My son can practically, he's 8 years old, and he can practically replicate or, you know, recite the brewing process.
Because he grew up.
Yeah, he grew up in a brewery.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And he's got a very unique childhood. It often, you know, I wonder if he realizes as he gets older just how unique that upbringing is. To him, it's just like, yeah, so what?
He was a year.
Yeah, he was a year old.
Yeah.
He was a year old. I still remember, you know, being inside that. Oh yeah,
I remember the swing.
Yeah,
the whole nine.
All that. I mean, he spent a lot of time just watching Dad brewing. So yeah, there's times where he got up there, he's milling the grain and all that. So,
and he's a kind kid, man.
He's a very, very sweet boy, very social. He's, you know, he sees me a lot at the brewery, and he knows how to engage with the patrons. So like he's definitely no stranger over there. Yeah.
So he's the PR man.
He really is. Yeah. Actually, during COVID, when we were running that drive-through, I couldn't stop him if I wanted to. We were inside, and we had a little buzzer that would let us know when someone pulled up. And before I could even make it out there, my son was making a dash for the door. I'm like, Jesus, son, I'm like, you can't just go running up to cars like that. Yeah. But before I could stop him, he's like, do you want the hop waters? Do you want the steam power? Do you want the porter? And he'd run in and tell me, yeah, Dad, we need a growler, a porter. And yeah, he was on it. Yeah.
You gotta love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So moving from that idea of I want to brew my own product, right? I want to connect that roots and to really just get into that idea of creating a product that I want to drink. What prompted that decision then to go professional? We kind of touched on it a little bit, but let's specifically talk about what prompted that decision to go professional.
Well, that kind of overlaps with what we were saying about my father. You know, my parents came over from the old country, as my dad would say, and he had already put in the sacrifices at the mills. He had already, you know, made all this sacrifice. And as much as he wanted me to work that union job and work at the factory and make that money, I felt like it was a disservice to the people that had already compromised so much and didn't have half the opportunity that now I had, the privilege and the opportunity to go and try and make my own fortune. So that was the key factor there was, you know what, I was working at General Motors at the time. I had a union job at GM, a union job at UPS, and I'm like, you know what, it would be a shame for me to not take this opportunity and run with it. And not to mention the fact that, you know, again, it was an old school trade, and I really gravitated towards that. Beer has been around for thousands of years. It's not going anywhere, and so I felt, you know, it definitely strikes a chord with me viscerally. It makes sense for me culturally. Yep. There was no shortage of inspiration of things that drove me to do it. So I figured, you know, I'm no stranger to having to kind of start from scratch. So I just went with it.
Yeah, and people drink in good times, people drink in bad times.
That's right.
Beer is always going to be in demand.
That's absolutely right.
It is, and I love that conversation, right? So if you're listening online, you know, what does it look like for me to take a jump? What does it look like for me to find something that I'm really excited about and interested in? It's your why. It's your passion. It's your reason. And when times get tough, like they do, like we've all been through, to even together most recently, what makes you stay around? It's that. What makes you go through those hard times when I have to sell every pint of beer in this keg or the lights are not going to be on next week? You do it because it's who you are.
Right.
You're
right.
passionate about it. It becomes part of who you are and your identity, and it is your why.
And the more I studied into it, you know, it just became one of these things I had to become fully immersed in. People were sick of hearing me talk about beer. But the more I studied it and read into it, I was almost more drawn to the culture of it as much as I was the product itself.
Yep.
It was so awesome to realize that I was entering into an industry where people felt this sense of camaraderie, this kinship with one another. These stories, you know, you almost never hear of a really good brewery starting off with like just taking off right out the gate, ton of money. No, it's always somebody that just started with a bit of a dream and a few ideas, took a few risks, and you know they had to really immerse themselves, and then boom, something comes out of it. So I figured my story was, you know, I'm not starting off with any less than what some of the best breweries have started off with. So that was the thing that encouraged me to just go with it, you know.
What are we drinking now?
So we are now drinking the Swamp Lily Black IPA, and I have to say I truly love this beer. I rarely get a chance to really sit down and drink a beer anymore, so it's always a pleasure, and you know, especially being able to sit with you guys. This is a true honor. Thank you. The Swamp Lily IPA is Black IPA is everything that you would expect from an IPA. It's got that dank, piney, resinous hop note, but it's got a darker body to it. But it doesn't have the heavy flavors of, say, a stout. Not what you would expect from a black or from a dark beer.
What did you use to as your dark grain?
I used black wheat, midnight wheat. Can I do something that I hear on other podcasts that I love when people do?
Yes.
All right, it's this when they taste a beer. It's like
ASMR.
You just kind of hear that, and it just makes you want to drink the beer. I love that. I've always wanted to do that. I don't think I do it as well as some of the other people. Can you try it?
Yep.
Let me hear that.
We're gonna get some weird audience members
I can't
now.
do it. I don't swallow.
Oh, it just
That's it.
Loudly.
Loudly.
I'm out, Sean. I'm out.
He's okay. It's all about it.
I think it's the mic. It didn't catch.
You need that prominent, you know, Adam's apple, just that glug glug kind of thing. All right, sorry.
We should be chugging.
Sorry to make it weird.
We should be chugging pints.
Anyway, but if I can tell you about this beer, so I used midnight wheat, and surprisingly, this is predominantly Chinook hops in this with a Mosaic dry hop. So, yeah, it's a favorite of mine, and it flew out the door. So we're gonna make more of this, and I think we're gonna try and keep this on year round because it is kind of a year round thing. IPAs do well all year, and dark beers do well in the colder months. So, more for me.
And it hits that sweet spot of 7.5% where you're getting that sweet residual alcohol sweetness.
Yeah.
But it does finish nice and dry. Lots of flavor.
Yeah.
The Chinook is definitely there for the dankness.
Yeah, absolutely. That dank.
That mosaic. Mosaic's fun right now.
Chewing on a pine gum. Yeah, mosaic's really fun. And it behaves differently every time.
It does.
So it plays really well with this.
Very good.
Yeah, it's enjoyable.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So you worked at, you said Ford Motor Company?
General Motors.
General Motors.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that.
It was in
I
Lordstown.
promise. Different. I get it.
So different.
All the old people listening are going to be like, oh my gosh, did he just confuse the two? I didn't confuse it. I just mistook where you were at. So you're at General Motors.
Yeah.
And you're also working at
UPS. Yeah, I was doing both.
So you quit those 2 jobs
I did.
and then moved into the professional brewer. Where did you go?
So I was fortunate enough to get my start. My true professional start was at the Brew Kettle in Strongsville. It was funny because I didn't even know that there was breweries in Ohio. I knew of Great Lakes Brewing Company. That was it. A buddy of mine who's also a fellow homebrewer at the time said, there's tons of breweries out in Cleveland. Let's go hit them up. And so one of the first places we hit was the Brew Kettle, where I got introduced to the White Raja and some others. And I just happened to put my application in there while we were there. And a few weeks later, I got a phone call from them, and that's when I just got tapped on the shoulder at General Motors because I was on seasonal. They kept bringing us back, and they were like, "Hey, guess what? You're no longer a temp. Now you're a full-time employee at General Motors." And I had just gotten the thing from the Brew Kettle, like, come in for an interview. I was like, "Oh God, I got to put my money where my mouth is right now." But everyone at General Motors used to call me Sam Adams. So it was like, it was, how often do you really get blessed with the opportunity to really know what you want to do, and to turn your back on something like that is kind of a sin. So I had to do it. I just had to do it.
Was Jack there?
Jack Hephart was there, and Jack Hephart is, he and my sister actually went to Akron State University together, which sort of got my foot in the door there. Jack Hephart, to this day, the knowledge that he bestowed on me is one of the main reasons why I still have customers coming through my door. I get a lot of compliments. Everyone comes in and says, wow, normally I only like 1 or 2 beers, but everything you do is, consistently good. And I think that's a result of the good practices that Jack Hephart instilled in me. I mean, that guy really, you could be the best brewer in the world, but if you don't follow good practices, you may as well just be pissing in a bucket. Because if you can't package that beer, if you can't clean your kettles well, you're just going to end up with a bad product.
I will say that by your description of this wonderful black IPA, it is very evident that Jack is in part of your bloodline.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He's a midnight wheat gentleman when it comes to making darker beers.
Well, I won't.
I'm not saying you took it from him. I'm just saying that we just did a collaboration with the statewide from the Heart Beer.
Yeah.
And of course he had to share, it was his recipe, so he had to share the process of what he was going to do to make a dark, cold IPA.
Yeah.
And there it was.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming we're talking to a lot of homebrewers on this audience. And
a little bit of both, for sure.
Yeah. So little homebrewing tip. Midnight Wheat is one of those malts that you can use that will instill a lot of color, but not a lot of harsh flavor. So your 2 options really when it comes to darkening a beer, for a really dark beer and you're not looking for a lot of flavor, you could either go with black patent malt, which is old school.
Craft the 3, black patent.
Right, yeah. and then you have the Midnight Wheat. And the Midnight Wheat, I think, does a really fantastic job.
Yeah. So when you walk in the door at Brew Kettle, what was the first job? Where'd you start?
Oh, well, when I first walked into the Brew Kettle, they had me shadowing Marty Linden of Millersburg Brewing Company right now.
Oh, wow.
Love Marty.
I love Marty. Cheers, Marty.
Great brewery.
Yeah, he's if anyone was like my godfather in the brewing industry, it was definitely Marty. So that was me. I shadowed him, and then my first job was probably keg washing.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, and definitely, yeah, that was definitely it. And
or packaging. That's usually.
well, yeah, the bottling line was a bit of a beast back in those
Bang,
days.
bang! I've seen it.
Man, back in those days, we used to have to roll out our 6-head bottle filler.
Yep.
It used to hide in the corner until it was ready to fill up an order. We'd roll that thing out, set it up. Took a good hour, 2 hours to get that thing set up, and then me and a skeleton crew of other volunteers would try to bang out a few cases. Little by little, we grew to the point where we had an entire section of that brewery over on Progress Boulevard set aside. Well, it's really cool to reminisce about this stuff, I gotta
Right?
say, yeah. But yeah, then we had a dedicated bottling crew, dedicated bottling area where the bottling machine lived.
And you're like, thank God I'm not on that crew.
Oh man, I gotta say, man, I think I still got the carpal tunnel from that. That was a beast.
And that line was there for quite some time.
It really was.
It did them a lot of good work.
It really did. So what happened was, we all kind of took turns, kind of working that thing, and as you probably know, that if that thing shuffles through and those heads don't line up just right, you're practically picking glass out of the walls at that point.
I've heard stories.
Yeah. So I knew that when Marty was leaving for Millersburg Brewing Company, I knew that like someone was going to have to fill in that spot, and rather than have Brew Kettle have to hire a whole other person to try to do this, I picked Marty's brain, and I think that might be when I might have earned Marty's respect, is when I said, "Hey, can you teach me everything about this filling line?" And I learned how to run that thing inside and out. Now they're probably obsolete. No one probably uses those anymore.
Cans are the wave of the future.
Right.
Now, you weren't just a brew kettle.
No.
So talk us about some of that. I think if you were in Cincinnati, you may have seen you at
Yeah, so it's very rare you get to work for your heroes, and one of my biggest inspirations in getting into brewing was Mount Carmel Brewing Company, and anybody who knows anything about Ohio craft beer should know something about Mount Carmel Brewing Company. They were definitely pioneers, and God, I'm blanking on his name now, so I'm not going to embarrass myself and try to remember it. But they started as home brewers, and then they literally became home brewers. Like they built the brewery onto their home.
Correct.
And it was they were just pioneers, and they were very traditional. They didn't chase the trends that we all know that craft beer can get a little oversaturated with like the novelty beers, but they stayed very true to their roots, and to this day some of the best beer that I've ever tasted came out of Mount Carmel Brewing. Their brown ale, their porter, their amber, which was also a big inspiration for my copper ale. That was fantastic. So I'm very grateful for that time. I was only there for a matter of 7 or 8 months, due to the fact that at the time my son's mom was pregnant, and I was commuting back and forth from Cleveland to Cincinnati. Then ultimately we just had to make the decision to stay in Cleveland. So, but I thank Mount Carmel Brewing Company for the opportunity, because it was definitely a tremendous experience. I was so grateful for that experience.
And I love the location, the house,
Yeah.
the garage in the back, and then now
Mike
the
Dewey.
expanded grounds. It's Mike.
Mike Dewey. I knew Mike. I knew that.
I don't want to. We're good.
We're good.
So let's talk about Bascule.
Yeah.
Right? So now we've gone from Brew Kettle to Mount Carmel for a minute.
Right.
And then you're back to the Cleveland area, and you're figuring out what I'm going to do. And you begin to open up Bascule.
Yeah.
Right. What was the vision and philosophy of Bascule Brewing Company?
So the vision and philosophy of Bascule Brewing Company was a little bit of what I had always wanted to do with a brewery, which was to make sure that it is sort of like a window into the past. And then Lorraine being such a unique area in and of itself, I wanted to take that initial concept and just apply it to Lorraine, because Lorraine really was, when I was being introduced to it, was a blank slate. It needed to be reinvented. There was no way that the steel mills were coming back. The dynamic, the economy of that place had completely changed. It used to be a big booming town, and when I had came across it, it was really just a shell of its former self.
It was.
So I tried to envision it in a whole other mindset. I tried to reimagine it as though the steel mills had never happened. I needed to look at it with fresh eyes. It was appealing enough to draw in this giant steel industry and the shipbuilding industry. So it's not like it didn't have some amazing attributes to it. You know, you don't just drop a big industry into this town for nothing. It had this beautiful waterfront. It had these beautiful waterways. It had this amazing, all these natural resources, the landscape, and not to mention the fact the international city aspect of it.
The people.
The people, which are a result of the steel mill, but also we're bordering Canada, you know. So there's all these great little things to kind of pull from that and imagine, well, what would Bascule Brewery be? So I really loved the inspiration of like, well, if we were to be settling Lorraine right now, every town really essentially needs the same things. You need the same establishments. You need a bakery. You need a butcher. You need a brewery. And these things came about not because they were going to be these big money makers. It was like, we're a community. We need this to sustain ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so you go into any town in the UK, in Ireland, Scotland, you have these little neighborhood pubs where life was tough back then. You needed a place to kind of gather and to kind of huddle. And so that's what I envisioned Bascule Brewery to be, is I needed to imagine it as though we had existed for the past 100 years. And that still is something that I try to implement now.
That's great. I mean, if you anchor yourself to the steel mill, like you said, something that's never coming back,
right?
It kind of makes people a little bit sad,
Yeah.
But you're kind of looking to the future, kind of setting your sights on something a little bit different. I never thought of that, and I think that's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah. And I think it's something that does help us stand out a little bit. I think it's something that people.
I like the idea of a public house too.
Definitely.
And that's really what Bascule feels like when you walk in there.
Right. Yeah, it is. I mean, when you come in, you immediately get the sense that this is not just something that, a bunch of investors just dumped a bunch of money in, and here's all your brand new stainless steel, this and that. There are elements of that place that you feel like everybody's got their own little sense of ownership in there. Yeah.
And I like that have the bridge operation panel there.
Yeah.
That thing is cool as heck, man.
Yeah.
It'd be better if you just push that button and this gigantic bridge just go.
We're working on it.
Okay. That's what matters.
Yeah.
We're working on it. You mentioned 100 years, right? Yeah. And I think that's something that you hang your hat on, right?
Right.
I think you've mentioned it before, but you are the first brewery in Lorraine in over 100 years.
That's correct. Yeah. When I first came to put down roots in Lorraine, I did my digging, and there was in fact a Lorraine brewing company, and it was very similar to most breweries back in those pre-Prohibition days. They were putting out one or two styles of beer. They hung out as long as they could until Prohibition hit, and then they had to shift over into. I think they turned into a soda company. They turned into a bottling company. You might even have a little more knowledge about it than I do. You being more from this area, but at some point they kind of became a conglomerate of the Cleveland Sandusky Brewing Company, possibly.
I think so.
So that's my knowledge of it. It didn't whatever happened to them. It didn't linger around much longer past Prohibition. So we're the first brewery in over 100 years, and we're proud of that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you mentioned that their beer was what they did, right? Mm-hmm. And we talked about your philosophy of Bascule and your connection to the city in your own light, right? Being that public house. And we've tried 2 beers a day, and there's another one to try. We had that big board last time, right? The barge.
Yeah.
So what is unique about your beer, and how is that relevant to what you're putting to the people?
Well, so it is. There's a couple different ways to approach that question. So there's what's unique about our beer, and then there's what's unique about Bascule Brewery. The beer, we just try to focus on quality first, and as we all know, the brewing industry right now is so dynamic right now. We didn't have all these different styles that we have now, 10 years ago when I first got into brewing. So, we're all a product of our roots, our inspirations, and our influences. So, my first breweries that I was exposed to weren't doing a bunch of like crazy novelty beers. So I try not to get lost in the mix and lost in, lose our identity to just being different for the sake of being different. If I want to stand out, I want to stand out for the sake of being good quality. And I want to make sure that every beer tells a small story about Lorraine and or my heritage or something about the region. So I try not to make it be just random or arbitrary. It has to be anchored in some sort of a root.
Yeah. I think that's what I kind of was asking that question for. The names of your beer tend to be connected to either something about the city, your location, your brewery, you
Right.
as a person.
Yeah.
Or in our case, we did a collaboration together early on,
One of my favorites.
and it was called Big Bottom Burliner, right?
Oh, yeah.
It was a Berliner Weiss, and we called it Big Bottom because that's the place in Lorraine where, so we sit on the French Creek,
Yeah.
right? Our patio is right on the French Creek,
Yeah.
and you're down on the Black River,
Black River.
and where they actually meet and combine, and that area is called
Big Bottom.
the Big Bottom.
The Big Bottom because when one of the earliest settlers of Lorain County, first embarked on there, he came upon, some of the natives that lived there, and that's what they referred to it as because it was almost like a mini Grand Canyon of the region. It was filled with all kinds of vegetation that they thrived on back then, crops, fruits, things of that nature. And that's why we decided, a Berliner that's something with a lot of fruitiness to it. Made a lot of sense. So, yeah.
And that was a fun beer. It was a fun time, and we probably should think
I was
about
going to say, we should do that again.
get back together on that.
I think, yeah.
Big Bottom 2.
Yeah.
Big Bottom 2.0.
That's right. Yeah, we should revisit that for sure. I would really enjoy that. But yeah, even like our Swamp Lily, this was not just a random name that we picked. The Swamp Lily is the name of an old brothel house that was on Broadway. I think eventually, the tornado of 24 took that out. So yeah,
we just drank black IPA out of a brothel house.
Yeah, we just did.
So the phrase "it's a brewery, not a brothel house" does not fit you.
Not at all.
Okay, it's fair. But at your brewery, you do have something that we all love in this time of the year, and Dave loves it.
Oh yeah.
The beer garden.
Oh, the beer garden is great, man.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's awesome. How's that going?
It is. We are definitely hitting that perfect time of the year. The beer garden. We were so worried about not having it done. There was a few little loops we had to jump through to make sure that it got ready for this time of the year. But we're very excited about it. There's so much room for activities now. It's this beautiful green space. It's not just a patio. It's this beautiful green space. It is dog friendly. We're going to be hosting live music events out there. We're going to start doing some rib and wing cook-offs out there. It lends itself to so many different things, and we're very excited about it. It's very relaxing if you want to come in there with a family, with a group, some friends, or even if you just want to sit under our beautiful black walnut tree and enjoy that shade, watch the sunset come through the branches. It really is beautiful, and it's one of my favorite places to hang out. So I hope people take advantage of that.
First, I dig the Step Brothers reference.
Yeah.
That was good. And secondly, if you didn't watch our last video, go back to episode.
Yeah, you can check it out. We spent a little time out there.
You could also
Previewing
come
it.
to Bascule Brewery
Oh, yeah.
and check it out.
Forget
So
the video.
how do they
Go and
find
see
out
it.
where you're at, Chris?
Well, we are at 1397 Colorado Avenue. We're on the corner of Colorado and Kansas in Lorain. Actually, we're right up the road from Avon Brewing Company. That's the best point of reference I give people is if you just want to head, about 3-4 miles west of of Avon Brewing Company, that is your point of reference.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I appreciate it.
So, it is you can follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. Our website is basculebrewery.com. So yeah, that's where you can find out all about us, and just follow the OCBA, and they update us, or we post our updates on there as well.
Perfect. And before we head on to the next section, Dave, how do they get a hold of us one more time?
You're going to look for us on Facebook and YouTube at The Blabbermalt Show, Instagram and Twitter at Blabbermalt.
Punch that button.
It's
like,
time for the
share.
Like and subscribe and do all the things. It helps us out.
Helps us out. Well,
All
we're
right.
already in the boil now, so we're swimming away.
Let's do it. Homebrew happenings. So
Perfect.
I got not much. I got to start brewing again, but I just got onto this new Facebook group. It's the Homebrew Equipment Exchange site. I saw all kinds of cool stuff. The only problem is it's in New Zealand or it's in Texas, or But there's a couple things around here I'm looking at. I'm looking at a glycol chiller.
Look at you.
I've been. If Chris doesn't know, I brew offsite at a storage condo. Homeowners Association was giving me grief about brewing in the driveway.
Funny story about that.
But so I went offsite, but we got a new president now, so I think it's okay to bring it back. But I'm gonna have to go to I'm gonna go electric, so I keep the garage door down, and so I'm looking for equipment. Anybody? And I got to unload some of my old stuff, that I can't use anymore.
So go out onto Facebook, find that Homebrew Equipment Exchange, so that you can help Dave get
buy
more
some of my
equipment.
stuff,
Buy his stuff so we can buy new stuff.
Yeah, I need new stuff.
It's really important.
Yeah.
Because we need to have some more of Dave's beer. That's a rule.
Yeah.
And it hasn't happened in a long time.
I know.
And we're getting ready to come up, a little plug this summer for the Brewfest Waterfront District. So
Yep.
any home brewers out there, make sure that you go to the Brewfest Waterfront District website and get yourself registered, if it's open, for this summer's homebrew competition. And the winners get to brew professionally their
Yeah.
batch of beer.
Super fun. And it's a good, just a fest in general. They have all kinds of beers from all over Ohio.
Outdoor, best
ABC's there,
Brewfest,
Bascule's there.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
best Brewfest of the year.
Not the favorite, yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
And we've had good weather the last few years. So
All but the first year, right? I mean, it poured rain in the street.
Yeah, first or second year,
Second
yeah,
year.
yeah.
So it's been good.
yeah.
And we're down
Real
at the
good fest.
beautiful Black River Landings, music, the whole venue. It's just a wonderful day.
Yeah, it's always a fun time. You can't be there and not have a good day.
Yep. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So pro brew happenings. What's going on? What's going on at ABC?
So ABC, heading into the summer, we're trying to catch some of that early business. So we're going to bump up our happy hour 3 to 6. We're doing $2 off our draft beer, and we're offering half price wings, all of them, right? Our traditional, our boneless, and our
So you can-
Brussels sprouts.
You can finally find wings now.
You can find wings, half price pup chip baskets, and half price buffalo chicken dip at Avon Brewing Company. We just were at the Best of the West competition
Oh yeah.
and got recognized for one of the best breweries on the west side of Cleveland, which was a really big honor for us.
Yeah.
We are up for 11 categories in Best of Lorain County, which is pretty neat.
Nice.
We're looking. So if you're looking for coming back to one of our beer dinners that we had most recently, we're going to have one in June. So the date's not solidified yet, but keep an eye out for another beer dinner here in beer and food dinner in June. New releases. I'll catch those up in a little bit, but we have a few new releases at Avon Brewing Company. Our medicinal wheat, our C4 Hop Bomb, which is a double dry hopped hazy New England IPA with all the beautiful C hops, Centennial, Cascade, Citra, and Columbus. So dank and beautiful. And of course, for all of you people, the return of Ruby Red
Oh yeah.
is out tomorrow. So wonderful things from us. Bascule, what do you got going on?
Well, as I mentioned, our initiative that's happening with the Let's Get Physical, Let's Get
Physical.
Yeah. So yeah, we have this new release. It's a recovery IPA. So one of my big things that I'm really gung ho about lately, if anybody has been following my Facebook, is I've 10 years of being a beer drinker. Not downing beer at all, but I'm just saying after 10 years or so, I started to kind of get a little more aware of, my physical activity. So when I got tapped on the shoulder by United Way and asked me if I'd want to do something in collaboration with them, and they mentioned some of their causes that they had, they're trying to promote and raise awareness for fitness. And I thought, well, how do I tie beer and fitness together? So I came up with this Recovery IPA. It's a beautiful session IPA, low cal, low ABV, low carb, and it is brewed with electrolytes. So, beer is actually, it really is a health food when enjoyed in moderation. It has balanced carbs, it has balanced electrolytes, and a lot of other little minerals and things like that going on with it. So there's no reason why it can't be part of a balanced fitness routine. So that's why I brewed this.
It's delicious.
It's as good as I remembered from last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another one that we have coming out, just a little fun one that my assistant brewer and I just decided to make, since it's beer garden weather. People are going to start going camping a lot now. We decided to come out with a campground brown. So it is just a beautiful. Brown ales are such an underrepresented category anymore in the brewing world. Everyone's so busy doing this cotton candy slushy, this and that.
Triggered.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying.
Everybody.
But every now and again, it's okay to go back to your.
We'll
roots.
have those, by the way. We have some fun things coming up. So
want to make some cotton candy stuff?
I will. I
All
love cotton
Let's
candy.
do it. So, but anyway, this is a good campfire beer. Not meaning that it tastes smoked or anything like that.
Yep.
This literally is gonna have like some chocolate notes, some vanilla notes, some of that graham cracker note to it. So it's a s'mores beer without being smacked over the head. Hey, this is s'mores. It's just supposed to remind you. So subtlety is key in this one.
Wonderful. Dave, Fatheads tore up at the World Beer Cup.
They sure did.
Took home 4 medals.
Yeah. Ohio breweries in general just kind of did
Also
very well,
dominated too, right?
Yeah, Fatheads, their Alpenglow, their Weizenbach is great. I've always loved that beer. That got a gold. Bonehead Red, I think it won in the strong red category, gold. Headhunter, one of my favorite beers of all time, is gold as
Great
well.
beer.
American IPA. Hopstalker got a bronze, the experimental beer. So, I mean, come on, man. They're just tearing it up.
They're killing it.
You gotta love them.
Yeah, Hoppin' Frog, they got a silver for their Smashing Honey Blonde.
Mm-hmm.
Wolf's Ridge got a gold for their Daybreak, which tends to win a lot of competitions.
Yeah.
And Rheingeist came out with their Cheetah, which is their cream ale, and then also got a gold.
Yeah.
So great job, everybody. It's wonderful to send all your stuff out and get some good results, but to bring home medals really sets the tone for our area.
Yeah, there were some other Ohio breweries that won too. I mean, it's a pretty good showing.
Mm-hmm.
We should be proud.
Absolutely. So you mentioned you're at Four Paws. I think they have some things coming up.
Yeah, they their grand opening weekend is the 27th, I believe. So they're going to have special beer releases. They have a special Monday, special menu, I want to say, and yeah, I can't wait for them to be fully open. It's going to be the Twin Oast of Lorain County.
That'd be fantastic.
I said it.
You said it. It's already. It's out. It's out in the universe.
It's a beautiful.
This puts
farm
us
property.
at 8 breweries in Lorain County. I think it's time to start a passport. I'm going to say that out loud too. We
Yeah,
started one in Medina. It's time to start one in Lorain County.
Make that happen.
I had a leadership Lorain County interview today, and it kind of came up about having a bus to drive around. So people were thinking about connecting all of us together. So let's make it happen.
I'd get on that bus.
Absolutely. Noble Beast 6th anniversary party.
May 29th.
May 29th. And stepping outside the brewery world, but also very important to us as craft brewers, is Rosie's in Lakewood.
Yeah, they're having a lager fest. It's the first annual. I think that's coming up this Saturday, I want to say.
Yeah, 27th.
They have some tap takeover, about 12 or so. The tap list isn't totally nailed down, but the Bookhouse, Clag, Fair State, Butcher and Brewer, Masthead are all going to have their lagers out there, and a bunch
Should be
more.
a great lineup. Bookhouse, all of them have great beer.
Yeah.
Especially in the lager category.
Rosie's is great. If you're in Lakewood, it's on Detroit there across from the Marks Plaza. They open up those garage doors, have a nice little patio, and they're always having tap takeovers. If it's
We're going to have one probably this summer.
nice. Oh, can't wait for that.
Should be fun.
But it's a great place to go out and have a beer and just people watch and they have wine events too. Little package store. You can pick up a lot of canned and bottled beers and yeah, it's a great place.
Wonderful. So there are some beer releases out. We're looking at stopping over to Northeast Ohio Craft Brewery News for some of those. They're a little behind this last couple of weeks because of work, but we have a few for you today. Goldhorn has a new release. Their Hoppin' Evil IPA. It's a collaboration with Destructor, which is a Cleveland-based metal band, which is
that's what caught my eye. I was
caught
like,
your
I
eye.
gotta check these guys out. They had Goldhorn had a rock and roll flea market or heavy metal flea market. I think it was last weekend. They had this beer was released and some other beers, but people come and sell memorabilia and things like that. Sounded like a cool event. Didn't make it, but
next time. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Saucy has their Swing Juice. It's a grapefruit Kolsch. As mentioned already, some Avon Brewing companies. ZZ's carries all of these as well. They have 12 taps now, and they get all of our sixels, so they get little ones off of from everybody. All three, Medina, ZZ's, and ABC have our From the Heart collaborations, both the lighthearted and the dark-hearted. The dark cold IPA versions are out. Medina also has the Grapefruit Hefeweizen and Tropic Thunder, which is their hazy. One of their prime New England IPAs got released. And also, ZZ's has a new happy hour. It's going to be half price wings from 3 to 6, half price pub chip baskets, and half price on our wonderful chicharrones or our pork rinds.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, and we're going to have cornhole all summer. We sponsored a professional cornhole player. So every Wednesday, starting in June, the rest of the summer, we're going to have cornhole tournaments. So it's a small buy-in. Winner, first or second place takes the pot. We're going to extend happy hour to those who are playing. So it's going to be a great Wednesday night.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a lot going on at ZZ's.
Sponsoring a cornhole player.
We sponsored a professional cornhole player on television
Look at
already.
you, man. Wow.
Got to do something fun. I mean,
When
the
are
best
you
part
gonna
about
sponsor a wrestler?
we could sponsor a wrestler.
Yes.
They don't drink beer. Cornhole players are known for drinking beer while they're tossing bags around. So it kind of fits the mold, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to sponsor any professional athlete as a brewery, it better darn well be a cornhole player,
It better be
Yeah.
a bag tosser.
a bag tosser.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
What about some music events, Dave? What we got?
Yeah, well, tomorrow I'm going to Detroit to see Halloween, a German metal band.
Making the
I
trip.
can't wait. It's going to be great. There's they got the original singer back, and there's a full 7-member set. It's if you're not familiar with Halloween, if Iron Maiden and the Scorpions had a dirty, dirty metal child, it would be Halloween.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I just came across Ugly Kid Joe is coming to the Agora May 25th.
I saw that.
Man.
I mean, that's pretty cool, right?
Whitfield Crane.
It's this weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That guy's amazing.
Or this week. 2 days from now.
I've
Yeah.
seen Whitfield Crane.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
John Mellencamp, also Connor Palace. I don't know if that's down Euclid, Playhouse Square area. I don't know that place. Seems kind of small for Mellencamp, but he's
Little intimate venue. Might be fun.
selling out bigger places. Yeah.
Down a little bit.
I have a couple country ones to add in there, right? We can go my route. You have more to do.
I got 2 more.
All right, rock on.
I got to say about the Incarceration Festival is coming up in July. It's a 3-day fest, but Saturday is Pantera, Lamb of God. Can't wait. It's going to be great. We just got the 1-day pass because 3-day fest is too much for me at my age. I can't do it. We also got the booking email for the Monsters of Rock cruise, and we can finally announce this. Tough with Billy Morris and Todd Chazon is on the cruise. So
They're playing.
they're playing. Yeah.
We talked about
wait.
that this week.
Yeah.
May have to book
But it's
a cruise trip.
It's finally announced. So yeah.
Boom. That's huge, though.
It is.
So
It
we're in the
is.
studio, people playing
Yeah.
on the Monsters of Rock cruise.
Yes.
Yeah, 80s hair bands all day and night and morning and at the buffet with you.
Yes.
Sounds like
Who's in? I'm in.
I'm gonna try. See what it's in March, right?
It's early March.
Early
this year,
March.
yeah, 24.
For those, and you can listen when we talk about beer, brewing, and bullcrap, and Dave talks about music. He's not just a person who talks about what's up and coming. Obviously, you've been to a lot of these concerts we're going to, and he's a super fan of these metal bands. So this has come from a heart of someone who loves this music. So he does some research for you guys out there. So if you're a metalhead, get on with Dave and find out what's happening. Maybe show up to some shows with him. Hop in the mosh pit.
Yeah.
Help
Too
him
old for the
survive his little.
Too old for the pit.
No mosh pit.
No push pit for me.
Oh, she said no mosh pit.
No. I stay in the rear with the gear.
So for those country fans, Paramore is coming to Rocket Mortgage June 4th. And for those old school country fans, Shania Twain is still at it.
Oh, yeah.
Coming to Blossom on June 30th.
She never
See,
stopped
I would
on
think
my list.
Mellencamp would.
She looks fantastic. And maybe he will.
Yeah.
But she's there. And also looking at local live music, ZZ's in Avon. Every Friday night we have karaoke, and every Saturday we have live music. This week we have High on the Hog, which is our house band. They play every Saturday from 7 to sometimes 11. So they rock it out full 5 guy set. So it's they definitely go at it. It's fun.
Maybe we could get Chris out to the karaoke.
Chris does sing karaoke.
would
Friday we're coming to karaoke. It's
Don't
gonna
have to twist my arm. I
it's
will
on.
Be there.
Don't make me sing. Don't make me sing.
You're going to
could do a
sing.
metal set.
Listen, we have metal sets there. James Stockard, if you're listening, he sings it. He's a screamo guy, and he does all those songs.
Oh, excellent.
And he gets up and just lets it rip
Nice.
on Fridays.
My brother Mike has a pretty good death growl.
Does he?
Yeah.
We're going to get Mike
Pretty
there, too, then.
legit,
It's going to
yeah.
be the whole
Nice.
family. We're just going to go to ZZ's on Friday. You have any questions for us, right? You can email us questions. I think we had a question. We have time to answer that question this week, Dave?
Yeah, real quick. Somebody emailed and said, "Can you sell homebrew?" And the quick answer is no, you cannot. It's illegal. You got to pay taxes on that. The TTB once they're cut. You know,
The government wants their money,
they
their
want
blood
their
money.
Yeah, you can legally brew 200 gallons of homebrew for your own consumption, but honestly, nobody's checking.
And you can share with friends, though, as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people do that when they
Yeah.
get started. And so you can brew for friends and you can brew for fun, but you can't sell it.
No.
Well, there's something that people might not know is there's really no rule as to how small you could start.
Correct.
You could start on a coffee pot as long as you show that in your plans and say, this is how much I plan to sell. This is how I plan on measuring the taxable amounts and all that. So you cannot start too small. Now, business-wise, you wouldn't want to start too small, but
But you could if you wanted to
You
sell, a coffee pot full of beer.
right.
It would cost you $1,000, and you'd have to have
Yeah.
some tax determination tanks,
Yep.
and get a TTB report and have the liquor control come out. But it is possible.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're out there and you're interested as a home brewer, make as much beer as you want. Right,
Mm-hmm.
the law says up to 200 gallons a year. Right. And you can use that for your own consumption and for your friends to come over and hang out. You can give away some cans if you want to can at home like Jason does, or you bottle it yourself, or
Yeah.
just have fun with that.
If you're not worried about making money,
Yeah.
Have fun.
Yeah.
It's a great pastime. Time for the grain out. It's time to grain out. Grain out.
so I've said this the last couple weeks. We're going up to Marblehead.
You got to.
Last week I didn't make it to Twin Oaks because just start drinking with the neighbors, and pretty soon you can't drive there. So I'm going to say it again. We're going to try to make it.
Twin Oaks.
Going to try to make it.
It is Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
You need to go to the lake and participate in water sports and all the fun things in the sun.
Yes.
So let's
doing
hope
some
you can
grilling.
get some grilling out,
I'm chilling and grilling. Yeah.
and maybe, just maybe,
Maybe get
Get to
somebody to
Twin Oaks.
drive me there. Is that asking so much?
yes, it is.
Yeah, it is.
It is. It is. Chris, what are you doing this weekend? Anything fun?
Yeah, I'm gonna be brewing. That's what I'm gonna be.
That's
doing.
fun.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I do every weekend is brew. So yeah, I'll be at the brewery. We're open till 11 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays, and then we open up at noon for brunch on Sundays. So yeah, if you need a few more stamps on your passport, come check us out.
Wonderful. Remind people how to find you.
The best way to find me is follow our Facebook page, Bascule Brewing Public House, or you could check our website, which is basculebrewery.com, or just pop on in, 1397 Colorado Avenue. That's the best place to find us.
Absolutely. And Dave, how do they find us?
The Blabbermalt Show, Facebook and YouTube, and at Blabbermalt, Instagram and Twitter.
Absolutely. And you can email us all your questions?
Yeah, email us good questions like the one we had today, blabbermalt@gmail.
Absolutely. Blabbermalt@gmail.com. Chris, we had a great time with you tonight. Thanks for sharing your stories.
Thank you so much for
Thanks,
inviting me
man.
on, you guys. I
Great.
really appreciate that, Dave. Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Love
great
you.
seeing you again.
All right.
Appreciate you.
Yep.
Look forward to spending more time with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey, guys, until next week.
Stay malty,
malty,
Cleveland.